Meditations with Frank Jordan and the Earth Mind Think Tank Group. We welcome all listeners and chatters. Any questions can be called in to 1-775-657-5973. 1-775-657-5973. If you're in the chat room on Wolf Spirit Radio, which is wolfspiritradio.com/wolf chat, please post questions in uppercase letters, in capital letters. Thank you. Now on with the show. You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.
The 4th be with you. May the 4th, 2014. Sorry, I can't help it. I've got very few opportunities to do that. I can't help it. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Anyway, May the 4th, 2014. This is Earth Mind Think Tank Group. Frank Jordan, JP, and Wolf Spirit Radio on No Borders Radio, on Ever Beyond Radio. Loads of radios. All these radios. All going through the earth. Earth Mind Think Tank Group. Focalized here tonight by Frank Jordan. Hello, Frank. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Hello, world. It's nice to be with you again, and it's particularly nice to have the think tank group with us, because they are evolving into such a wonderful intellectual, spiritual group of consciousnesses that gets together and chats and trade ideas and uplift, stimulate each other. And it's just amazing to see something start and how the rest of us pick it up and carry it on to higher and greater things. And in respect to that, as far as my participation in Stephen's is concerned in this, and I'm speaking of Francis when I say that, we respond well to questions of virtually any nature, because if Francis doesn't have the information stored in his archives, then it promptly kicks up to Stephen, who has access to pretty much everything out there. And Stephen brings through information to the level of your perceptive ability of cognizance to understand it. By that I mean, don't ask a question of a scientific nature involving a lot of physics or anything like that, because what you'll get back is probably an earth plane interpretation of what the physics are in real life, and sometimes that's interesting too. So out there in the chat room and wherever you may be, we welcome questions of any nature. And tonight, prior to the program, we were just discussing, from a suggestion from David, of discussing more things about DNA. And interesting how we come along with programs that seem to follow up on JP's most recent work in programming. So, JP, how about catching us up a little bit on what you were discussing, and how can we apply it and take it on to other levels?
To take it beyond the beyond. So, yes, indeed. Well, what we were talking about with Colleen, it's a thought that came to my mind a few months ago about the way that we're divided by language, in that our frame of reference is, when you use a particular kind of language, a particular kind of jargon, you adopt a certain frame of reference. So if somebody starts, for instance, speaking Latin or quoting sort of legal phrases and things like that, then you have to constrain your mind into legalese, which actually doesn't mean English. It's the opposite of English. Or if somebody starts using, for instance, biblical language, you then have to go into this kind of medieval translated mindset of the whole effect of King James and all that stuff, and but your mind gets put through that medieval filter, even though you may know better. You still get, we still go into that mode of being, for instance, it divides you. You're either on God's side or you're on the devil's side, right? This is how the expression comes. And by accepting all these things that we're going to give you, you get onto God's side. Otherwise, if you reject us, then you're rejecting God, and therefore you're a demon. But nobody wants to be a demon, so I'll just do what you say. I'll go along with you. So it puts you into a divided place, and it's part of the old divide and rule thing. And so just by using a few sprinkled words here and there, you can frame the conversation and control it. And that's what happens in the media all the time. Does that make sense?
It makes all the sense in the world, except that when you've evolved to a little higher level of consciousness where you're not listening to the word or the historic meaning of the word, but you're listening to the vibrational frequency of the speaker and the intent and the framework of the words, which is what we do a lot in this group and in our communications, is when we're not excluding the devil's work or the opposition force or anything like that. We're including that in our awareness, not in fear or doubt or lack of self-worth or anything of that nature, but in internalizing the knowledge that has created that form in past consciousness. And our work is to recognize and neutralize or transmute those negatives into positives. And so we do a lot of that. I know I was working with a lady today where it was necessary to transmute perception of her entire family flow. And we did it quite easily by looking at it, observing the lessons that had been learned, and shifting it into a positive realization. And it was a very wonderful thing for her when we did that. Well, I think I can share it because it's a lady who got pregnant. It's a very Catholic lady, Catholic family, who got pregnant at 16 years old, and through not through sex, but through the near occasion of sex, which is a sin in the Catholic Church. And in the process of all the guilt and everything that was programmed into her and everything that happened afterward, it really messed her life up. But we were able to go back and clear the trauma of that out of her system and to transmute that negative into a positive in this realization that the son she brought through and gave up at birth, which she didn't see again until he was 30 years old. She was able to see the positive, wonderful, beautiful soul that she had brought through, and that's the intention of God. Didn't have anything to do with the Catholic Church. It just happened. And so we were able to clear all the religious negative self-worth and family crap out of her, and bring her back into a full, perfect relationship and full self-satisfaction in who she was and her life. And also we did another neat thing. The subconscious is incredibly literal. It believes anything you tell it as being the truth. So what I had her do was, rather than giving up the child for adoption, in her mind and with visualization and internalization, I had her raise that child through to completion, to the present time and into the future, as though he'd always been with her. And it brought such an incredible feeling of joy and fulfillment into her life. It absolutely changed her life and freed up all the old guilt and all the horrible stuff. So when we're looking at the negativities, like you mentioned, and that have been created and put into form by words, by perceptions, by ideas and ideals, when we're looking at those things, I see them as an opportunity to transmute these things into the positive opposite of whatever they represent. And in doing so, we shift that consciousness in Earth mind and help clear those negatives out of our universal consciousness reality here. And your DNA responds to that. I mean, just instantly, just within moments, that lady was a different person. And it was wonderful to experience. I just love doing this with people. So that gives you all a tool that you can use as you clear your negative experiences, replace them with positive experiences, and the subconscious is totally happy with that and accepts it. Silence.
Tumbleweed?
Well, let me ask a question. How I'm understanding that then is that your mind thinks what it is told, meaning like if you've already experienced something, if you go back and tell it that this is how it occurred, that's the line that it's going to follow then, and that's what it's going to believe actually did happen?
Let me clarify this a little bit. There is no time or space. Everything is this moment of now, including the past and in the future. So we went back in the standing waves of the past now, and all that is there through the 0 point of the present now and resonated into the future. It's as though not only did it never happen, but we created a positive reality out of it. This works wonderfully, folks. You got to try it sometime.
I tried it with my issue of my father. It was always a sore spot for me that he was mostly an absentee father in my life, and my mom had to do both roles, father and mother. So I did that. I went back and I designed my own image of what a great father would be. And then I brought everything to the forefront and deleted whatever was there before. So now I don't have any negative thinking about him or negative memories or anything at all.
And you projected on into the future, so that even though he may be dead and gone, the future realities that you could have created in a parallel reality become the truth.
Yeah. And I was telling Joan in an email, I did that, in your case, you were customizing a series of events, but I see how it's applicable to everything because you were aware of this issue I had some time back with the limited hearing in my left ear. So I decided, okay, let's try this. Let's take this for a spin. Went back to the point before I hurt myself, and both ears were exactly the same. And I grabbed that, and I went forward, deleting all the other stuff. And 24 hours later, not only is the hearing returned, but every day it's improving more and more. Like it would never was hurt in the first place.
Perfect.
So I could use that same method with my knee.
That's what I suggested.
No, I suggested amputation in your case, but you wouldn't go for that either.
Be nice.
Sounds like an 1800s field medic.
Well, even if he did that, he could go back into the standing waves and act like he didn't do it by creating an alternative reality and get through it.
My God.
There's always a way out.
Even though these are truths I speak, they are simply a line of singularity in truth. And all other alternative potentials that others bring into mind and have brought into form already in the past can affect it. Therefore, there's no absolute truth. Everything occurs as it is, comes into manifestation, depending upon not only what has happened in the past and what you desire in the present, but what might be required in the future for some point or purpose. And in relation to Joan's forthcoming operation on her knee, there are so many factors involved in that when I get involved in these things that don't seem to fix for some reason instantaneously with our healing work and our creativeness, I take a step back and say, okay, now what's the biggest picture here? Why is this necessary? What will this evolve if we leave it alone that may be of far greater benefit in our lives or in our realities or all of humanity in the future? And so when I dabble in reality, I do it as an observer, not just in what would be nice now, but what is really going on underneath the dynamics of what we're experiencing and playing with.
Yes.
So the butterfly effect.
Exactly. And the DNA responds to that. The DNA, as long as that's one of our points of discussion tonight, DNA is actually the consciousness format, structures, template, map, so to speak, of our realities out here. And this is true of the DNA of all life itself. Everything that has a functional, operative, creative life is formed, brought into form through the templates of the DNA, the four factors, A, T, C, whatever it is. I can never remember the four things, but those are representative in the energetic extrapolation of the four primary forces that holds everything into form, which is the weak force, the strong force, the force of gravity, and electromagnetism. And those are all held together and functional and created through the fifth force, which is consciousness. Because without consciousness, organizing with its incredible intelligence, these DNA codes and strands and things like that, nothing could exist. So we are all the product of an incredible mind that has been evolving for hundreds of millions, perhaps billions of years out there in the cosmos. And the DNA did not originate on Earth. It was brought here, and the scientists are trying to figure out how, in the dust of an asteroid or whatever, it doesn't matter. However it got here, it's scattering through the entire galaxy and the universe that way. So life is multiplying, and it follows a pattern of evolutionary conduct and consciousness that is really amazing to watch, because I have the ability to go back in time and observe the transition of species as they evolve from one species into another, and the genes keep on passing along. The genes adapt to the present conditions, whatever they are, to gradually create new species, new variations of the species. And from the level that I work in as a healer, I'm fascinated with how essences that are attached to the genes affect the ultimate outcome and function of the genes. The essences of vibrational patterns and forms that attach to genes. Because quite often we don't alter the genes when we're doing healing work, because the genes are really very fixed and not transmutable except through mutations. But with our desire and will and intent and need being the primary factor there, we can influence the essences of genetic material and patterns and programs, the essences of what is required or desired at any present time. And that's what we're really working with when we're working with healing anything or manifesting anything in a biological form, is we're working the essences of consciousness, and that's where our power is. And when we understand that, it gives us a multiple of selective choices of how do we do this. And experience has taught us that one of the greatest factors involved in this is we do it through the auspices of pure unconditional love and desire for the creature, no matter what it is, to have a more enjoyable existence, and for that existence to carry forward into the future and as essences to pass on to new lines and genetics.
So the gene is acting itself, it's acting like a receptacle, like a data holder for all these different types of essences?
Yes, it's like each one's a little computer in itself that has an energetic battery that energizes potentials, and it responds to need and desire and will, and as far as evolutionary processes are concerned. And these can happen quite rapidly too, where a gene only mutates, or a person's genes will have one mutation in our genome every 20,000 years. And this is how scientists can trace genetic lines back to our origins and our ancestors and whatnot, is to trace those mutations. But we know that just within years, a matter of a very short period of time, species can adapt to changes in the environment or requirements for life force. And this is that incredible abundance of life itself, and the desire to extrapolate through needs what is required to manifest in mature life forms.
So in a situation where a specific species is mutating in response, well, on the outside we interpret that it's mutating in response to an environmental shift.
And it's really not.
On another dimension, then what's, if I understand you correctly, in another dimension what's happening is the collective consciousness of this species is saying, okay, I need to make this change in order to continue in this experience of life.
And that's what creates the mutation. Is when enough of them need it, it'll cause a mutation. Otherwise, it's the essences adapting to the needs.
Is there a limit to the number of essences any one gene can contain within itself?
Well, you are about 240 pounds of essences. And I guess the answer to that would be no, because we're such wonderful biological computers. That's why when I'm working with people doing clearing work, I'm literally working in the biological computer consciousness of the mind to clear patterns and the forms that affect their subpersonalities and ultimately generates their realities. And it is quite true. We create our reality, and it's been in function for hundreds of years. Who we are now is an expression of what has been manifested, the choices that were made back for hundreds of years. And yet, under different conditions, we would be far different beings than what we are now, even though the genetic aspect, the pure genome, wouldn't have changed that much.
So are all the energy shifts that the entire planet, the entire solar system is going through, is all the DNA interference and alterations that humanity has been subjected to, are all of these changes going at some point reverse or undo these artificial changes that were imposed not out of a collective consciousness need, but out of an external agency coming in and deciding a domination choice of, okay, we're going to change this because we want it the way that we want it. Is that being undone?
Well, that's the interesting thing about Earth Mind. Earth Mind, the silicon dioxide, which composes 63 to 67% of the crust of the Earth, is a living, gigantic computer chip. And those essences that are going on at any moment in your body, those essences are frequencies of energy that Earth Mind is recording wherever you're at. Every place you spend much time or live for a while, you create a node, just like in a computer, you create another file or a folder of your lifetime. And when you move to another place, there's an energetic grid of connection that connects all these. This is why in your mind you can go back to your childhood and experience and remember something that happened to you that may have been traumatic or affected your life or your future reality. So by going back in time and altering that reality in the essence of Earth mind, or in the computer of Earth mind, you change the essence of the expression in this moment of time, in this moment of now, which is really all there is now. But that resonates also then resonates on out into the future, and your genetic potential holds that reality until something else changes it, or by choice or by agreement. And over 20,000 years of mutation might change it.
So we have fully customizable pests.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is the greatest delight I have is
Could we put up a storefront and make a sign, customized pest, and just, people tell you this is what I want, and then you sit them in a chair and just go back and change it for them.
You can. It's called Clearing the Way to Higher Consciousness, my book.
Yes.
It is it.
David, you asked this question about the genes. What do you want to know?
Well, I've been obviously going back and reading parts of a couple of your books, and it's addressing the whole developmental process of genes and DNA and the intrusion of the Anunnaki, and yet the work we've been doing and talking about for some time is about how we're able to use the etheric essence, I might call it, to reactivate, to re-energize and realign those elements. And I just think that's a fascinating potential for us. And I've even looked and checked to see if that is actually happening to me and to others, and I'm getting clearly that is happening in its own time, of course, but I thought that was just a fascinating area that maybe some of the listeners may not have come up with, may not have read your books, or may not have, touched in some of the shows.
So, David, what you're saying is that when the DNA was altered artificially, they were only able to affect the three-dimensional physical DNA, not the etheric DNA?
Right. The etheric still is there, so what Frank's point has been is that we can actually, use these capabilities and reactivate those etheric essences and experience those elements and capacities that were supposed to have been taken away.
Mm-hmm. True. There's a lot of hoopla now about the alteration of genetic coding in plants and things for betterment of humanity, for better food and more evolved species and things of that nature. I'm not in opposition to that. I having been studied biology myself and in the work that I did in college and further on, I think that these things, as long as qualified, careful people are doing them, and it does benefit mankind, that these are going to be the salvation of mankind, and already have been. Just in not only in the selective breeding programs that have allowed the abundance of food that we have on the planet now, but will further continue to alter things such as the severe diseases that are developing and things of that nature. We have to keep ahead of it scientifically if we're going to live in this planet that we've messed up and mutilated. It should be done with qualified oversight, with people with right intent.
Yes.
Because there is the opportunity, of course, for negative things to happen, and it does, it can, it will. But ultimately, this wonderful Earth of ours is relatively rigid in the base genome, and the things that are altered, if they are too destructive, they will become self-destructive.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. The difference between domination and dominion.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've even heard discussions before, Frank, where even creatures that have become extinct, that their essence still resides here in Earth mind in an etheric manner and still potentially available.
Well, I think I wrote about that in one of my books, being able to get this experience myself. You all know what psychometry is, where you pick up an object and hold it to your forehead or in your hand, and you feel vibrational thought impressions come. I was teaching a class, a psychic development class one time, and a person had a tooth, just a large tooth about half as big as your hand, and they thought it was an elephant's tooth. And they handed it to me, and I picked that thing up and put it in my forehead. And instantaneously, because I knew how to do it, I reached back through Earth time to the source of that. And I was a Trisopterus out in a plain grazing on grass. And I spent a minute or two of delightfully experiencing being a horned beast several 100 million years ago, or whenever they were around. And so, yeah, it's all there. Everything is still in Earth mind and everything that ever happened. And as far as the genetic predisposition of how to create those things again, that's not too far in our future. They'll be able to create a pool of elements, organic elements, DNA, and project a thought or an impression or a resonance from a tooth, perhaps, or something through psychometry, and it'll reform that creature. This is how things are passed around in the universe.
So that's how life forms are seeded from one planet to the next. They're just transmitted as an energy transmission and materialize at destination.
Well, when I examined this and had the realization of how that works, sorry, I'm kind of emotional about this. It brought an incredible joy into my heart, realizing that nothing of life and the experiences of life are ever lost. These all accrue in the mind of God, and we are, being aspects of the mind of the God, are privy and can access all of that, and will, at some point in our evolutionary process, we'll be able to open up and say, hey, I was that butterfly on that plant, in that time space on that planet, and experience it all, because it's all there waiting for us. Mm-hmm. Our trials are not trials, our opportunity now, and the only real mandate we have by God, as I see it, is to experience life in all potentials possible in our time space from, to record that in a positive way as much as we can, record it into the earth mind, so that as we expand and become greater, more advanced, more evolved creatures, may not even be human, but we will have that to draw upon for our knowledge and experience of all things possible. So when it's our time to go out and create another universe, we'll have that knowledge behind us to do so.
Well, thank you for explaining something that happened to me as a little kid, because I think I was 4 or 5 years old when my father brought home a series of magazines that were like an encyclopedia type deal. So each cover had a different, like one cover had the creation of the earth and another, and so on and so forth. And then one of the magazines, on the cover, it had a pterodactyl in mid-flight. And as soon as I saw it, I just felt madly in love with it. I even slept with the magazine under my pillow because I wanted to be that pterodactyl. I remembered being that pterodactyl, and I remember how liberating it was to be able to fly for hours on end, never having to land. And they couldn't pry the thing out of my fingers. I would eat at the table, and I had the magazine with me.
Well, that's totally understandable, and that brings the realization that this 15% of our brain that we use and which will be usable 100% of our brains to process information that comes to us through our DNA as we develop the other 10 strands of DNA, just in the base potential of human that we are. Think of the potential of what we can be and what we can experience. And these wonderful beings that are come and gone beyond and ahead of us, that we call the galactic flow, that are sending information back to us now. We're simply not even children. We're like I don't even have words for it in the level of our consciousness and our knowledge, but we have such tremendous potential that it's inspirational for us all to keep on learning and growing and evolving and making the choices that keep our life directed on in a positive reality and leaving that out in our future be what can be. And that's, you all heard my story that I tell about wondering who my guide was that speaks to me and tells me all this stuff. Out of curiosity, one night about 4 o'clock in the morning, I asked him, "Who are you?" And it chuckled and said, "Look into the future." And when I did, I saw myself as that being in the future, sending this information back to me now, so that I could make the choices so it could be where it is in the future.
So you could be your own dad.
Yep.
How cool is that? Be your own father. Fix all your childhood problems.
We all are. We're all doing that. Yep. And we're not aware of it. Everything we do is patterned into Earth mind, going back in Earth mind, and helping, prompting you to make choices back there so that you can be where you're at right now. Uh-oh. That made you stop and think, didn't it?
Well, I love the idea of being able to wear any body that I want. So I could be a horse enjoying the prairie, and then I can change my form and just fly off like an eagle, and just wear any form that I choose to wear that particular day to match my mood.
And there are there's multitudes of etheric entities that do exactly that we can't see. We have no concept or reality that they're even there, but they're experiencing life through and around us, and all sorts of other creatures and beings, and experientially, they're contributing to their species that way too, of observation and learning.
Yes.
Questions?
Yeah, just Teresa here. Frank, you were saying, unfortunately, your voice was breaking up, but you were talking about when you were introduced to yourself in your future, and it came to you in a very relaxed way. And we often chat amongst ourselves about, guides and so on. And I'm curious, is there a way that we could encourage our own higher self and be in better communication with our higher self or selves? As we know that Francis and Stephen have different roles, and they're both your future selves, but their expertise is in different areas. So again, how can we encourage that for ourselves?
Well, with the realization that it's possible, for one thing. This is something I learned early on in my so-called career. If I found out something was possible by whatever source, reading a book or someone telling me or observation, no matter what skill or what level of knowledge it came from, I could do it. There was something in me that said, this is no great mystery. This is, if it has been done before, it's in the common consciousness, the group mind consciousness, all knowledge, universal knowledge, and therefore it's there for you to use. And this is exactly what happened here in the last 45 minutes or so. Is I've been channeling through information that is in the group mind consciousness, and as it come into your awareness, I didn't have to tell you this. I simply had to remind you of it. And your DNA, your genes, everything is alive and listening and saying, "Oh my God!" And here I thought I was only human, when in reality you are so much more and can be so much more. And so, in looking into the future, that you in the future is observing you right now, and may have even prompted you to ask that question, Teresa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it did feel familiar when you were answering. As soon as you said just the realization that it was possible, and then it's like, well, of course. Yeah. And it's amazing how, as we are meeting regularly and growing, if I compare where I started from to now, in a way, at the very beginning, when I was introduced to the Earth Mind Think Tank, I knew that everything was possible, and I knew that I just needed to be reminded over and over again, and or shared it. Someone shares a story, and it reminds me how to test myself. So I really believe that everything is possible, and I mean that. Absolutely.
And those of you who are out there in World Spirit Radio land that are hearing us, these conversations Teresa is alluding to that we have in our stellar group, we're recording those, and they are also being put up for study in the World Spirit archives. And so there's tremendous amounts of opportunity and information becoming available to us simply because we're here to share information. That's what the think tank is all about. That's the way think tanks work all over the world, and scientists and whatever else. Ours just happens to be a very localized group of people interested in healing and what allows healing to happen. And so we are evolving the consciousness of all humanity as we think and explore and explain and discover we can do these things. Don't let that sense of responsibility overwhelm you to where you can't speak. We're waiting for your next words.
So you're saying our future selves are having a good laugh at our expense? That's not nice.
Well, there's also the aspect that there's really no time, and that our future selves, current selves, and past selves are all simultaneously occurring. So there's enough confirmation that it's actually happening and available.
So that means that all of our higher selves could be off somewhere and having conversations as well.
Yes.
How does it fit in with what you've been studying, JP?
JP, go get coffee.
I think he transcended with so much knowledge.
Okay, so now we've talked about 3 and how time is all going on at the same. There is no time. It's the illusion. So everything's occurring at once. But we call it time so that our pea brains can keep track of what we think is. We've talked about our higher selves, our lower selves, our middle selves. But to me, the ascension process is to bring them all together and to ascend as one, which I don't see happening if we keep talking of it separately?
No, it happens. In myself, I have access to all three levels of consciousness all the time, constantly, simply by stepping back and into that state of awareness and expanded consciousness through the chakra system. You've heard me talk about how each level of the chakra system is another level of intellectual consciousness that simulates information that's fed to it experientially through its reality, and is also reaching out into the greater group mind conscious, opening up portals, I call them vibraports, portals of information, so that intuitively when you need information, and this is the process, when you download information from your sensory sources, that's programmed right into your physical system as frequencies in the chakra system itself. The brain is primarily not a storage unit for information, but is a processor for the information that is downloaded into the chakra system and the auric bodies around you. And those auric bodies are directly in attunement to other thought forms, other structures of construct out there that other people are creating. So this is the group mind consciousness. So when we need information, the first thing you do is you drop back into your memories of something you learned and processed and internalized into your heart system. If it's not there, then you drop back into the subconscious mind, and it reaches out through the chakra system to the group mind conscious and pulls information from that. If the information is not there, then it reaches to a more expanded level of consciousness, which is the universal consciousness, where direct inspiration or what is the word? It's direct inner knowing. You just know it, but it's not coming from something that's already been experienced. This is how we bring in new things, new concepts, new ideas, as we explore and extrapolate information from what we've already known or created, and then we reach up to intuition. That's the word I wanted. Intuition. That comes from another source that's entirely outside of our limited consciousness here on Earth. And this is where the galactics come in. When I step back and look at consciousness itself, I see, maybe I better not get into that.
Why not?
Well,
just when it's getting good?
No, I just don't want you to get too excited and step all over yourselves. Like,
oh yeah, you know me. I like to play with fire. I almost got burnt one time.
It's a progressive thing of applying what you've learned, internalizing it, and having the foundation. So as the next information comes to you, you'll use it properly, or be able to use it at all. And it's a progression of growth of consciousness. But I know one thing, the foundation of it all, and I just keep hammering this to everyone I talk to, is clarity. Getting the chakra system cleared so that the information can come in and move in an uncluttered, unprejudiced, unpreconceived way, so it becomes a natural inspiration into the consciousness field of the biocomputer of your brain, where the brain processes and puts all of this information from frequencies forms into a verbal flow of information, A plus B equals C, that we can understand and work with and relate to. Pure information that surrounds us. We're in a sea of it, but it's ABC, and it has to go through the channels of extrapolation and application before it's meaningful to us.
Also, one of the things I'm getting is that lack of clarity. If part of you is conscious enough to bring in an intuitive new idea, something that nobody has thought of, but you lack the clarity, you might be tempted to take that idea, and whereas somebody else with clarity would take this idea and make it into a medicine to heal something that's incurable, you might take it with your lack of clarity and turn it into a weapon or something that'll destroy things as opposed to fixing them.
Yes, and that refers to the degree of clarity. Are you patterned to be positive, beneficial, in dominion, sharing, growing, giving, loving, empowering? Or are you patterned in domination, where you use that information, which could have been used positively, but you apply it for greed, avarice, control, domination, blah, 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 blah. See, that's the choice right there that moves humanity forward or can only take it out.
Yes.
But we're going to make it. We're doing fine.
Yeah.
You know, it being springtime and there's spring cleaning in the air, it is the perfect time to clean out all the thought processes that a body has accumulated.
And shake off those old forms.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things about actually getting clearer and clearer, is actually being able to recognize the forms that have been holding you, and being able to dance out into those subtle energies and actually carry a state of expectation rather than one of fear and diminishment.
Well, it just occurred to me that each one of us have a responsibility. If we have any responsibility at all in life, it's to life itself.
Yeah. To be free, to be sovereign, and to exercise it.
To be formless.
Yeah. Yeah.
To keep it evolving.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
go with the flow.
Yeah. It's like a permeable consciousness where we have enough form and frame that we can move forward and understand, but still malleable enough that it allows us to expand and push out.
And so we can experience all things possible along the way, like going to the Kentucky Derby.
Wearing a nice hat.
So there is no actual goal or nothing in reality to achieve, but rather it's the experience itself that matters in the end.
Absolutely.
Yes.
When we've experienced as God all things possible, then it just quietly implodes. It's all gathered up into a nice little ball about an inch in diameter, and it explodes and starts out all over again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a much different perspective than that which we're taught young, huh?
Yeah.
Ain't it grand to be alive?
He was there for a minute.
More than a feeling. Hey, should we take a break? Should we do some Boston?
Boston
Sounds
over?
good. Oh, Boston, more than a feeling.
That's right. There we go. Hang on. Hang on.
Oh.
Welcome back. That was Boston with More Than a Feeling. Back to you, Frank. We got some things, and obviously Walt has got a point.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say that I would have asked Stacy, the fellow in the movie, how do you crash your car in the only rock in an ocean of sand? Remember that? Here they're driving through the desert, sand in every direction, and he manages to crash the car in the only rock in the middle of the desert.
It drew him to it.
I think it takes talent.
I don't see any questions on the board.
There's one coming in. Any request coming in from Cindy in Milwaukee. Yes, I've just refriended you on Facebook. She's being attacked at work by a jealous / angry co-worker who wants her fired and some creepy men.
Maybe the universe is sending her messages that isn't where she needs to be. And just examining the situation, anytime we're in a work situation or family situation where there's not joy and pleasure and communication, if there are disruptive, dominating, or abusive situations, then if you can at all remove yourself into a more happy occasion, it's your responsibility to yourself to monitor who you choose to be with, rather than having them choose to how they're going to abuse you. Any other ideas on that subject?
Most people don't like that responsibility, though. Like to point the blame at someone else.
That's a lot easier than stepping up to the plate and taking responsibility for your own future.
Mm-hmm.
As a person who has been in hostile work environments, it's just not you are right, Frank. It is not a place for Cindy to be. She has, for whatever reasons, things have come to a head. She's boxed into a corner. She needs to find a better place for her. And she will find a better place.
Yeah. The other thing is to be aware of the fact that these people are mirrors for her, and what is there in her that's allowing them either to come in and attack her, or what is she doing that stimulates that kind of reaction from them. So this comes down into self-assessment and self-realization as you move on. Don't take it to the next place. Learn your lessons and step up. That's about all I can say on that subject.
Also, there is such a thing as outgrowing a job. In the beginning, you learn what you needed to learn from that exposure to that energy, to those people, and then you outgrow it, and it's time to move on.
Okay, do you have any questions from anyone else out there? I thought we'd be loaded with questions after that first hour.
It's been a long day. How we've been talking about PTSD, and we've talked about many things today, but this whole framing of the mindset, and this is part of what we call entrainment or training, or what's that other word that we use for it? Trauma-based mind control. Yeah, it's an aspect of the state And the state doesn't really exist. It's actually a form, it's a series of corporations that pretend to be a state. They've just got these big stone buildings, but they don't really exist in reality, in real reality. There's no natural force behind them. I know you're going to say, read my book. I can read your mind, Frank.
Did you?
I haven't. Is there an audio version?
No.
No?
We're making it now.
I'll read it. All right, so there's the audio version. How do we relieve ourselves of these entrainments? Literally, by trauma, or what people call my conditioning. Oh yeah, I'm a conditioner. Yeah, I've been trauma-based mind control. What's your take on releasing? What are the keys to releasing these things?
Awareness. When you become aware of something, you have control over it. Without awareness, you're subjective to the entrainment or whatever energies are coming at you, and if they're hitting patterns or forms within you that happen to be similar, they create a standing wave, a square wave, which creates a resonance within you of awareness that something is coming at you that you don't like. Well, what is there in you that relates to that resents it, that fears it, that resists the control of it, or makes you feel bad about yourself? It's hitting some pattern in there. It's just like I mentioned a while ago when I was talking about all the other extant life forms and consciousness beings that are around us all the time. We're not aware of them. We just quietly do our own life. They don't bother us a bit. And so, unless one of them begins to do something, brings our awareness to it, then it disturbs us, and we promptly do a clearing, or if we go into fear because of ghosts or something like that, what we term as being ghosts, then it creates a fear entity around you that allows it to have greater access to you. Fear is not only an attractant, but it's something that your system responds to in order to judge and analyze whatever the source of that's creating the fear is, so it can resist or clear it or protect itself from it. This is the low self stuff operating. So, in terms of how do you resist entrainment? If it's the power of a group mind that you're in, like a bunch of co-workers that don't like you for some reason, and they're all in agreement with that, and they're focusing a lot of energy on in their group mind conscious on you, it's your responsibility not to feel bad about yourself, but to look at them and say, hey, I see your problem. What can I do to help you alleviate how you feel about me? Duh.
I recall once you were telling us about how our standing waves are in form and collapsing constantly. And I just read something that said that we do that process 1,400 times per second. And the topic of PTSD, it appears almost like they're going through this, their reality is like, almost like Groundhog Day, the movie, where they constantly wake up in this realm of fear or that repetition. And I've had my own experience with I was out in a sailboat and there was a lightning storm, and I ended up having to tie to a rock overnight, and I was quite terrified. I had not ever, or didn't recall ever being so terrified. in my life, but this was one of the worst storms I'd ever experienced. And the following day, I didn't think that much of it, but the following weeks, whenever there was cloud cover, I suddenly felt panicked. And then there was another lightning storm, and I realized that I was developing a phobia. And then there were these other events, like it was really curious how it developed, and it continued to appear worse and worse. And the trauma originally was the lightning, and then it developed into fear of the clouds, and then fear of the rain, fear of wind, and I was like terrified of the dark all of a sudden, and then afraid of stars. And it was like this fear cycle just kept happening. So in a way, it's a reversal of what we are working on when we're healing. I was collapsing. In the collapse state, I was creating that new reality of terror and fear. And I fortunately was exposed to a technique of clearing. And when I did that clearing, it collapsed everything. And every fear or phobia that was developing just disappeared. And I found myself at a family reunion and standing on a veranda and watched a lightning storm over a lake. And I was excited. It was like, oh, this is so beautiful. And at that moment, I caught myself saying, what did I just say? And it was like, oh my gosh, it's gone. And so it was a beautiful example of that, how you're in these events that can create these phobias or terrors or so on. So in the processes that we learn with clearing the way, we can literally recreate that in a really positive and beneficial way.
Exactly. What happens is that any experience or anything that creates emotion or fear creates a subpersonality. So that, and every further experience related to that adds to that subpersonality, which is automatically triggered by anything associated with it. And that's why subpersonalities are so incredibly important in our clearing work. For example, if we've had a bad relationship with someone, and created a subpersonality in defense or in self-protection, and then you get rid of that person, but you go on to the next person, you've already got that subpersonality created, and you carry that package with you. And it's going to be testing, checking the new person and prompting him to see if he's going to react the same way the old one did, and it probably will, because you are inviting and testing that subpersonality, and they get stronger and stronger and stronger until they absolutely rule our realities, and particularly in things like emotional experiences, and this is the cause of a lot of diseases too that pass around through the community and through people. Is the subpersonalities taking on through a process of identity of other people's situations and their problems. It's emotional hypochondria is what it is. But I can share one with you where I really learned that the clearing the way techniques do work. Is I was in Guatemala, and we went to Chichen Itza, which has one of the steepest, highest pyramids down there, and Mayan pyramid. And I separated from the rest of the group because I was curious about what was on top of that thing. And so I walked up it quite easily because they had a little quarter-inch chain that you could hold on to going up. And the stairs are only about 6 inches wide. That's to facilitate the sliding of the bodies down, I think. Anyway, when I got to the top of that thing, I turned around and looked down and just went into absolute horrors because I had past life recall of being sacrificed and slid down one of those things. Well, I could not even begin to put my foot on that top step to go back down again. I could not do it. So I sat up there for about 15 minutes and looking out over the rest of the terrain. And, if this clearing the way stuff really works, it's going to have to work now. So I went back in time and cleared that emotional experience in the past life. And the memory slid down there, my heart gone, of course, and I healed it. I went back a step further and put myself in the position where I didn't experience that sacrifice. And then when I felt those energies clear, I got up and walked down that pyramid without even touching the chain. No problem. So it really does work.
Well, it's amazing that you managed to do it that quickly, in the moment.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it works.
So we have some more healings they have built up over the few minutes. So
okay,
let's start up the top here. This is for Tio, age late 20s, presumably female. She's lost 2 babies late in the term. She had liver issues, apparently the first time. Now the doctors are saying she's not healthy enough to bear children. Can she be helped? This is through Gary Warder.
Liver problem sounds like something like hepatitis or something of that nature. Let's tune into her. Let me get my little device going here to see if it's safe. Okay. Oh, she has an overall conditioning that is not healthy from emotional complexes and oh wow. I understand her desire to have children to create a positive expression in her life of something that she can nurture and care for and see grow effectively, but Tio, in your present state of consciousness and condition, I would not recommend that you try to get pregnant, because the body is obviously aborting them, because no soul is going to come into a body by choice that has the potential of the thing that you could pass along into that fetus. And so let's just step back and go into the overview now. And as a mother, a potential mother, you're a potential healer. And it's always healer first, heal thyself. And that's where I'd recommend your attention until you get your health stabilized and can feel like you can have enough energy, enough positive self-worth, enough clarity that you can successfully nurture and bring through a couple of children that can benefit from your positive reality rather than what might be passed to them intrauterine through the negative reality. So it's not fun to have to make recommendations like this, but please step back and observe. And as far as sending healing energy is concerned, to help you, I'd recommend just overall clearing the things that contribute to your negative self-worth that are breaking down your physical system. And again, the Clearing the Way to Higher Consciousness book would help you tremendously like that. There's no quick fix that we can impose on you to clear all of those issues at the present time. Sorry to say that. We send you love. We hope you can get in control of your reality. But that's the best we can do at this moment until you take charge of manifesting into your life a more positive experience.
Well, you got to make sure the soil is good before you can plant your seeds.
There you go.
Here's from JJ in the chat room. Healing request for Jean in Sioux Falls. Her neck all the way down the spine, please. And I think for all of us, who are dealing with the neck all the way down spine issues this week, I would like to ask for a group healing on behalf of all people all over the planet. Perhaps even let's just stick to Earth. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll focus on her. But anyone out there with neck all the way down your spine, please respond. And the way to do that is realize that what she's feeling all the way down her spine is actually spasm that's caused by a slip disc there in her neck. So we're going to bring that back into place now and take the pinch off. There, now we'll strengthen those discs. And everyone out there now feel heat come in the back of your neck as my hand runs up and down the back of your neck, radiating healing energy, releasing the need for the spasm, which is just trying to protect the neck, the nerves. Through the power of the Christ within us, we see the neck in perfect alignment, healthy, vital discs and nerves. Clear the spasm, relax the spasms all the way down the spine. Now, another little trick you can do is just wrap your awareness around the causing factors to that neck and flow that energy down the spine and right out your root chakra into the earth. It's just like feeling the cause of the expression of the pain and the spasm and flow it down the spine. Get rid of the mental emotional cause of the condition, and it's just energetic. You just float away, float down the spine, out a conduit into the earth. This is how we clear a lot of stress out of the systems too in healing. Okay, that should be sufficient.
Oh, that was good. I got a good stretch in there.
Good.
Bit of that. So, thank you for the neck all the way down treatment, Frank. That was a good one. And I'm sure, like loads of our listeners, are just kind of, oh, that's better. I certainly have had a lot of tension this week. This is the intensity of what I call the galactic wave. I think you have a similar word for it, but it's been, the tension just keeps mounting and mounting and mounting and mounting. It's now no longer real. There's no respite anymore. It's just relentless now.
Hmm.
And it's an evolutionary impulse. I'm not complaining, but it feels painful. I mean, it feels like I feel like all the joints in my body hurt. I've had a headache for all week. I've been feeling nauseous. But I've just been throwing my body at the. I've got chickens to build a house for, so I've just thrown myself into it. But I've not felt great at all.
Does it feel better now?
Certainly, it's like, you know what it's like if you put your electric drill into a curtain, and it goes, and it makes a vortex that draws everything in it, and it's all really tight and hard, and you can't get the drill open.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like in the back of my neck. Well, that's what it felt like until that's a good one, because it felt like I was draining a boil or something like that, like discharging this.
Yeah, well, you got to pull that energy out of there before it'll relax. See, the thought form. So that's why we suggested that.
Yeah. So
many times when I'm doing things like wrists that have been sprained and things like that, or fingers, I just wipe the energy out with my hand and to get the etheric pattern of it out of there. and then it'll immediately start feeling better. That's getting to the thought form that holds the reality.
Yeah, when I first experienced spiritual healing in 1986, that's exactly what the guy did. He was like brushing. It was like brushing dust off me.
Yeah.
Or a cloud. And nowadays I see it. I see it like a kind of like a smog that you can just kind of brush away from people.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's look at our friend Dave.
Let's look at Dave. Dave, I hope you're sitting as comfortably as you can, and take some deep breaths. You've got a glass of water next to you.
I have a question for Dave, if he can enter it back in here. Do you get up in the morning with that edema, or does it just come on during the day? Can you tell us, Dave? The reason I'm asking that is, as the tissues in the legs expand because there's too much water in the system, and it starts draining down into the lower system just to have a place to go. If the kidneys aren't working well enough, then at night that'll drain back up if you're laying flat enough into the bodies, and you get up in the morning and your legs look fine. If that's not happening, if you're not getting the water back up there, then you need to elevate those legs, maybe at night, to drain that water back up there, and then get your water pills, please do, to stimulate your kidneys to get that excess water out of there, because you expanded the tissues now, and it's just sloshing around back and forth. What we can do is stimulate your kidneys to greater production, and so they're not tolerating. We have to hit the trigger that's allowing the tissues to tolerate that much water in your system.
There's a blockage somewhere. It's like, there's something stuck in the pipe.
Yeah. So we're putting our hands, we're standing directly behind him with our group mind consciousness now, and we have our left hand on his left kidney, our right hand on his right kidney, and we feel a flow of energy, the galactic energy coming through, and our hands are getting very hot. And we're looking into those kidneys, and I think you're right on. I see not only a blockage, but an inflammation that's blocking the drainage out of those kidneys. So we break down the blockage and reduce the inflammation so your kidneys can function. All right, Dave, I want you to feel now. Visualize and feel the release of the water through the urinary tract, stimulating those kidneys to full function and vitality, and keep your legs up while you're, either put your legs on pillows at night if you can, or sleep in a recliner, you can put your legs up to get that water up out of there so those tissues will shrink down and not just act as a storage barrel for the water.
I haven't seen anything from Dave yet.
I haven't either. Walt has an excellent idea of flaxseed oil. Number one nutrient for the kidneys, also lowers blood pressure. Movement or jumping on a rebounder will help loose the extra fluid.
DMSO is a really good anti-inflammatory substance.
A very interesting thing happened this evening is that Dave's well broke down. And he's in Nevada, which is a desert, so it's really dependent. Does that tell anything?
If his sewer system had broke down, it would have meant more.
Could it be that there's something in the water that is collecting in the kidneys that is unprocessed?
Well, there could be high alkaloids in the water that can actually be irritating to the kidneys, and it helps retain water. And Walt is suggesting that is he drinking enough water? The body retains water if it's starved for water. Rachel says, for edema, use grapefruit essential oil, 1 to 2 drops to 8 ounces of water, and drink every 3 hours. I recommend doTERRA oil, D-O capital T-E-R-R-A oil. Interesting, the tremendous amount of energy coming out of my hands still coming into his system. So let's visualize turning a spout on him and draining that water out. Turning a faucet.
Right now, he'll be running to the bathroom.
The herb horsetail is good for cleansing the kidneys. It's an alkaline, so that might, if they're already inflamed, may not be too good for them, but talk to your herbologist. We're still getting suggestions, so the kidneys, especially in the left one, looked really emaciated and dark, tired and depleted. I would go for juicing of organic apples and carrot juice, 8 to 10 glasses a day, and less water will be required. Good thought. And David is one that works with, what do you call that technique, David, of the system?
Oh, the therapy?
Yeah.
Yes, the Gerson therapy. It recognizes that good solid juice of apples and carrots are very, very light to the system, easy to digest, and pack a lot of nutrients. And if you drink enough of it, 8 to 10 glasses a day of good raw juice, water is really less and less required, particularly if you can't get good water.
I have another thing, which is, it complements, and I've been thinking about it myself because not only do we need water, but we need oil because we're a mixture. We blend oil and water. We are fats and liquids and lipids and all these things. And your skin is only healthy if you give it oil, like coconut oil or something like that. We generally produce our own oil, but sometimes we don't, and that's why we can't hold the water. And I think it's like there's not enough oil to hold water in some places, so it's flowing in other places, and it's crystallizing and it's blocking, and it's like a whole chain of things, isn't it, Frank?
Absolutely. And John mentioned too much coffee. Maybe.
Oh well, hang on. We're stepping on sacred ground here, aren't we?
Stop drinking coffee. Use it as an enema.
Stick it in the other end, yeah. Dave, I don't know.
Giving up coffee is a tough one.
I don't know if we'll have a radio station after that if Dave gave up coffee.
We're going to have to do a coffee intervention on Dave, go down and take his household over and stop him from smoking, and I'll bet he gets well in no time at all.
He needs a 30-day intervention with a straitjacket.
So I'm having to read the chat room, and I'm looking up and down it, and there's all this sarcastic robot. I don't know why we've got I hate this sarcastic robot, this HAL 9000. It's terrible. Anyway, where are we? We're 37, and we're out of things that have been requested, medieval healing techniques. So, yeah, Frank or Francis or Stephen, if you got a moment, would you like to talk about the balance of oil and water in the body and what it means alchemically, spiritually, and the whole thing? 10 minutes.
Well, beyond the very facet of lubrication, as the oil is emulsified through the body, it helps to distribute through its lubricating properties, and not only the muscles and the joints and the tissues and everything, down in the finer, minute molecular particle levels, it has the propensity of helping water to pass through the cell walls in and out by chemical processes. Oil is a necessary nutrient in that it helps to stabilize and release toxins. It can be a replacement for toxins that are clinging to the cells or within the cells. And in its molecular state, it can replace the body's attractant to hold on to things such as toxins of one form or another. And this is what's happening in Dave's case. His body's accumulating toxins, which are accumulating water, and so the oil and other diuretics can help break those toxins loose to free the body up so it will clear and release that excess water from your system. That's about all I can say.
Somebody else had this issue the other day, and I just thought about it, and I'm wondering if Dave is allergic, as we all are, to this toxic material, canola. Now, I know in America you have a lot more canola, and it's all GMO, and it's in things that you don't realize. It's like used as a sort of industrial lubricant, as you say. But can everybody read that? Just read Dave and to see if he's, use your pendulum and to see if he's being poisoned by this material, because it came up the other day. Somebody else was experiencing this toxin, or this material as a toxin.
Is Dave using canola oil to cook and stuff?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
Is there any way you can get a response from him so we can verify that?
I don't know. He's a bit AFK this evening. He's not very well. So
there is also another product, Cargin or something along that line. It's some type of a red seaweed that they've been putting in a lot of different foods, and health foods and so forth.
Carrageen.
And yes. A lot of people are finding that it doesn't always agree with them. It doesn't work well for all people, especially in abundance.
Yeah, I never heard of that one. Coconut oil is supposed to be the best thing for cooking, and to use a lot of coconut oil.
Yeah, I love coconut oil. I cook with it. I use it for everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be distilling my water too if I was Dave.
I think I would too. That's one thing I found that's highly beneficial to me is distilled water. And anyone who says that, you're losing the natural minerals in that water. This water we use here comes from about 3,000 feet deep. And by the time we distill a few gallons of it off, the most horrible stuff you ever saw is in
the water.
In that water at the bottom of the pot. And you taste it and it just burns your tongue.
Right.
You wonder, why would you ever take any of that stuff into your body in the water?
Exactly. And that screws up your kidneys eventually.
There you go.
The minerals and the stuff that we need, we get from the vegetables, organic minerals, not inorganic minerals, which is what's in the water. That they pull it out of the ground and call it, spring water, and sell it to you for $1 a bottle and tell you how you need all those minerals. But that's just a scam to sell you water that they don't want to sell you distilled water. They want to take it out of it. It costs money to distill it.
Well, there's the argument with distilled water is that water always wants to maintain a balance, and in its natural state, it does have minerals with it. And when you drink distilled water, if you do not add minerals to it that are beneficial to our body, then that distilled water or reverse osmosis water, which also has no minerals, will leach minerals from your bones.
That's what they say. That's in a story that has no proof or validity whatsoever. Why don't you get your minerals from your food, from vegetables, and all your vegetables and fruits and stuff are full of minerals?
Well, a simple solution to replacing the minerals in the distilled water is just simply to put a pinch of Himalayan salt into your water, because Himalayan salt has like 98 beneficial minerals in it. And it also, if you measure the alkalinity of distilled water and reverse osmosis water, you'll find that it's highly alkaline. And too high in alkaline water in your stomach will cause the natural hydrochloric acid in your stomach to change the pH and will absolutely affect your digestive system, and you will be deficient in vitamin B6, B12, and folic acid. And so I can understand why you'd want to distill it, but do consider replacing it with
well, what if you use the Himalayan salt when you cook? We use Himalayan salt when we cook and on our food. Why do we have to add it to the water as well?
It's highly alkaline.
The water is more acid. Distilled water is a little bit acidic compared to the water that's got all the minerals in it is more alkaline, because that's what's in there is alkaline substance.
I did mix that up. Yeah. But anyway, I can I'll track some documents for you, because I'm actually in the midst of some studies on that.
Okay, I'll put a link down here with my guru when it comes to water and stuff.
We also have been using shungite for water purification purposes as well, so that might help. Have you come across shungite?
No.
What is it?
Yeah, it's from Russia.
Yeah, Nancy Hopkins and I have been, experimenting with it, basically. We tried it in various things. It's good for electromagnetic radiation. and it's like a kind of Faraday cage thing, and it's also used for purifying water. And I think what it does is it causes. I don't know if anybody's listened to Clayton Nolte or anybody who speaks about structured water, and it's basically got counter-rotating helixes of water, which is how energy likes to flow and how water likes to flow. One going one way, one going the other way. It's like the kind of continuous Merkaba kind of thing, spiral DNA stuff, business. But if water can do that, then it's happy and it flows really well. So the molecules of shungite are tiny spheres. They're like geodesic domes, and they cause the water to start spinning, and it spins in both directions, and that's what is beneficial about it, and that's how you make holy water. It's basically holy water, living water.
Yes, it has a life force.
I make happy water. This is Frank speaking, in my old moonshine still too.
Oh, I'd love. I'd love. Yeah. Hey, I've got some copper pipe. See you next week, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a great grandmother who used to make it in Georgia too.
But the ultimate therapy I've found so far is urine therapy, the golden elixir. I've been drinking a cupful every day now for about a year and a half, and I haven't had a cold or anything, nothing, absolutely nothing, since I started doing that, and the same with my wife. And Andrew Weber is the guy I just put on the thing there. He's into that too. And he has all the info on it, and it's the fountain of youth, as far as I could see.
What do you call it again, Gary?
The golden elixir. They got all those little urine, your own urine. Drink your own urine. Drink a little bit every day. The first time when he turned me onto it, I got so excited listening to his show where he was being interviewed on YouTube by Lisa something, this Australian lady that interviews a lot of people, Harrison or Harrington or something like that. Anyways, and he was talking about the urine that is so powerful that you can get bit by a snake and then wait a few minutes, put a little bit of urine under your tongue, and the urine will communicate with your lymph system and tell it what it needs to do to combat what it needs to produce to antidote for whatever the poison is. And I never did any of that before. And that day I was coming down, I was getting the flu, and I was in bed, and I knew I was getting the flu. So I just put a couple of drops in my mouth, and within an hour I was totally better. And I've never haven't had a cold or a flu or anything since. And that was a year and a half ago.
Well, that's wonderful. But I think I'll stick with my moonshine. It does all the above and more.
Yeah, there's a kind of ongoing thing in the chat room at the Wall Spirit Radio. It's like oh no, here comes JP talking about pee, and it's like the whole pee thing, and everybody makes pee jokes. And it's like, don't mention the urine therapy. It's like, oh no.
Oh yeah, I know. People really freak out when you start talking about that.
So yeah, being fearless, being able to drink your pee without fear is pretty much. It's like one of those sort of bungee jumping things.
Real men drink their own piss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I have a book. I have a book that I got a hold of some time back that claims that it's basically a long process. It would take several months, but that essentially cooking and refining urine and the residue is how to produce the Philosopher's Stone.
Yeah, what's the guy's name? Widener or something?
Jay Widener.
You know that guy, Jay Widener? Well, he just gotten hold of of Andrew Norton Webber and told him he'd been reading up on Andrew Norton Webber's info, and he told Andrew Norton Webber that he actually has discovered the Philosopher's Stone. That's what it's all about. Urine. You're drinking your own urine. But it's not. They try to do it. Got this big process where you keep refining it on all this for a whole year in a special deal. But I haven't heard anybody being successful at that. But there's a lot of people successful at just drinking your own urine to stay healthy. Doesn't taste that bad, really. I mean, it doesn't really taste bad at all.
I think I'd be forced to mix it with Frank's moonshine.
Yeah, that might help.
You get a cold, try it.
Once you get up some of the Frank's moonshine there, you won't give a shit about nothing.
Moonshine,
well, I'll tell you, if you get a sore throat or even the beginning of a cold, just gargles a little bit, stuff kind of diluted, and no more cold.
Yeah.
Well, moonshine.
Moonshine.
A bit of each. I shouldn't have told you guys about that. Damn it.
Don't mention the P. Just don't mention the P.
Yeah, you should have, because we won't ridicule you. We actually have an open enough mind to be able to listen to it. Now, the radio audience might be a different matter.
Well, Walter's saying here that you've actually done it. I've distilled an amount. Go on, what happened, Walt? Don't be shy now.
Sorry, I muted my mic. I had read that same paper that David is talking about. Or sorry, is it Mike? I didn't follow the. Who was it who brought up the issue?
Mike.
No, I brought up the book, but you brought up the P.
I actually found a document on the internet as an extremely long read because he keeps bringing up all this ancient writings that are backing up his argument, and there's no way that I could even conceivably do what he's proposing, because after you've done the distilling part of it, where you gather all the solid that's left afterwards, you're supposed to cook that solid for a solid year.
Yeah.
Keep it at a certain temperature. And I said, you know what? I'm not doing this. So I thought, okay, if there's some truth to this, there has to be something left, in the fluid part of it. So I did that. I have my own distiller. I distilled it once, cleaned out the pot, took out whatever was remaining there, distilled it again, and I kept doing it over and over, and I just compensated for the volume with a little bit of distilled water to not to lose that much, fluid. And after the sixth time, you end up with a fluid that's crystal clear, but it has a very particular taste. When you first taste it, it has like a hint of ammonia to it, but it disappears right away. But the thing is that even after drinking a small sample of it, it's like you're like turbocharged. You have this incredible boost of overall energy. So I thought that it was a powerful fluid.
Exactly. Well, it doesn't taste like ammonia if you get it fresh. You want to drink it.
No, correct. It doesn't.
I might have to go get my own dedicated distiller for that project.
Make sure you do it in the garage or outside.
Well, you got David Corso's attention anyway, so let's hope some of the rest of this stuff helps him.
Okay, well we better get going. I've got to jump on the Revolution Radio, so I'll see you sometime in the next 7 days, probably at the end of that 7 days. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the outro and I can't find... there we go. So, thanks everybody. Thanks very much, Frank, and God bless. Good night.
Have a good night,
JP. Take care.
Good night, everyone.